Wander Wealthy Podcast, episode 264. Welcome back to another episode of the Wander Wealthy Podcast. My name is Tess Wicks. I'm the host of this show, founder of Wander Wealthy, and financial coach turned business coach. That's right, I'm here to help you, new, aspiring, and seasoned money coaches out there in the world, navigate the world of building an online business, being in the coaching space. How do you market yourself? How do you sell yourself? But also, how do you build a truly life-changing coaching program and package? I know so many of you have been thinking about money coaching and you really feel called to providing this value to friends, peers, strangers even, but you're wondering how to get started. And this podcast is the answer, as well as the whole business of Wander Wealthy. So welcome if you're new. Thank you so much for being here. Today, we are going to be talking about one of my favorite topics when it comes to business, which is pricing your offers the wealthy coach way. I think pricing is such a complex topic for so many people, because it feels a little strange. It's definitely something that challenges you not only from just like a logistical standpoint of how do I do this? Does this make sense? Like, it's super weird to be charging for my services if, you know, you've never been in a service-based business or industry before, but also just like being an entrepreneur and selling something that you've created from scratch is amazing, but then you have to price for it and you have to actually charge and sell. And then I think it also challenges you on an even more deeper level. There is a whole mindset component that can trip us up when it comes to pricing. We can do all the math we want. We can go forward with the calculations and really, number crunch our life away, because here we are, money nerds. So of course we're going to do something like that some way or how. But then when push comes to shove and it comes to actually stating that price point, and, making your offer, sometimes we can, get in our own way and discount our prices even before we hear the potential client's reaction. So yeah, it's pretty tough. Pricing is a much more complex topic than we would like, to assume it's going to be. But I also think that actually knowing the right formula to use when it comes to pricing your services can help you in such a bigger way than just kind of pulling a price out of the air or looking over at the competition and going, oh, well, this is what they are charging, so I'm just going to charge that too. Especially when you're looking around and you're seeing what people are charging and then you're running the numbers and you're going, there's no way this is going to, make sense for me. There's no way I could actually build a full-time business with prices like this. So competition or, peers who are undercharging themselves definitely do not help us. Sometimes when you see a peer charging way more than you've been charging, it fires you up a bit and you're like, okay, I definitely need to raise my prices. So that can be okay. But I think first and foremost, you need to run your own numbers and you need to at least know like what your heck no number is. Basically, I cannot go below that because it does not make financial sense for me and my life and my family or my business, and then go from there. So I wanted to share with you the kind of first step in how we price our services here at Wander Wealthy and what I teach my clients inside of the Wealthy Coach Blueprint, which is to start with the pricing formula. For those of you who don't know, the pricing formula is also a sort of quick weekend crash course that you can take by literally just go to wanderwealthy.com/pricing. It is a very affordable product, and I give you a calculator, I give you a workbook, and also some bonus trainings for that mindset piece that I talked about that can be so tricky. And you can get access to all of this that I'm sharing with you in the episode, but in, a tangible workbook and calculator format, which can really, again, help solidify your price point and have a really good numbers-based place to start. And it's not just numbers based on nothing, it's numbers based on you and what your goals are, what your needs are as a business owner, but also as a human being who has financial needs, as we all do. So the pricing formula is what we follow in order to price our offers the Wealthy Coach way. And it has 5 key components plus a kind of bonus component. And I wanted to share with you what those are. The first component of pricing your services in your business is what you want to take home, right? It's your salary. What do you need to make? And for anyone who's getting a little in the weeds with this, you don't have to add tax. Just decide, what do you want to have deposited into your bank account on, we'll start with an annual basis. I like to do everything annually so then we can slice up the number from there, because we all know, us money nerds know that when we don't start annually, we forget all those annual or quarterly or semi-annual expenses that sneak in there. So I like to pull all the numbers together annually, and it just, makes sure that we don't miss anything. So if you think about, okay, my salary, what do I need to make? Well, of course, you have your necessary expenses so that you can live your life. That's probably going to look like rent, maybe some debt, insurance. You probably have some utility bills to pay, and, kind of all of those kind of baseline things, right? But then you can add on top of that, of course, savings goals that you have. You can add some discretionary spending that you need to do, and so on and so forth. We're really looking at kind of building yourself a personal budget, and that can help determine what your salary needs really are. Now, keep this in mind. If this business is more of like a part-time business for you, or maybe you don't need to contribute 100% of the family's expenses, maybe you have a partner or someone else contributing to some of those expenses, then just take your portion of what you need to contribute. If you have a full-time job, you only need to contribute what you would need, and take that literally. What would you need your business to contribute, because your full-time job doesn't cover that? If you literally don't need anything, you could start with 0 for your salary. Obviously, I'm all about paying me something. So pick something that you would like your business to contribute to your personal life and those expenses coming through there. All right. So that's the first component, is your salary. And it's a after-tax net income salary, because we're not worrying about tax at the moment. The other thing that you need is to cover, right, in order to run your business. What does your business need? Well, there are costs involved. And so the money that you make in your business gets split up. It doesn't all go into your bank account, your personal bank account. It also has to go towards some of the business expenses. And so look at your current business expenses and tally those all up. Consider, again, annually, because lots of business costs can be taken annually, like maybe an LLC annual registration, or maybe you signed up for some software and just decided to pay the annual amount because it was cheaper. Whatever it is, total that up, and those are your business needs. From there, you also want to consider taxes. So this is where taxes come into play. As a business owner, and usually if you're any kind of business owner that's not incorporated, then the tax man looks at you and your business as kind of one and the same. So when you think about what should I set aside for taxes from my business, it's also going to end up being a lot of the taxes that you need to pay as an individual as well. I'm not going to get too in the nitty gritty here. I'm sure I've done an episode way back in the day more into the weeds about kind of setting these purpose-driven revenue goals, where I talk a little bit more deeply about taxes, but we also cover that inside of the pricing formula, so you can check that out as well. But taxes is another component. When you run a business, you make money. If you're making money, you're most likely going to owe taxes. So we need to make sure that we include taxes into your price. The fourth component is profit. And profit is a funny one, because so many people think, well, profit, I don't make a profit until the end of the day after I take out all of my like salary, business cost, taxes. Then, if I do well, if I'm good, then I'll make a profit. But the truth is, you need to bake profit into your price point, right? The reason we run a business is to have a healthy cash flow, and healthy cash flow is essentially that profit so that you can either reinvest in your business or you can reward yourself as a business owner who's probably committing a lot to building this business in the first place. And there's a lot of different things that you can do with profit, but profit is essentially cash, and we know that cash is king, and we know that it's important for the health and well-being of your business. Now, most people feel weird adding profit in. I think they even feel weird adding tax in. But when you really think about it, and the big mistake that most people make is charging on a per session basis and then really just charging like, what would my hourly rate be? But that's a huge mistake because that's really only thinking about your salary. And instead, you need to, again, bake in those business costs, bake in the taxes, and bake in the profit. Otherwise, you could literally just go get a job and get paid an hourly salary for the sessions that you do. And, that's not the only trade-off there, but when you're running a business, you have additional things that you have to consider. And that's why baking in profit is important when it comes to your price point. So we bake it in the pricing formula because it is critical. So I misspoke earlier. I said there were 5 components of pricing plus a 6th bonus. No, the reality is there are 4 basic components of pricing: your salary, business costs, taxes, and profit. And that gets us to our baseline. That really gets us to a place where it sets the boundary of we cannot go lower because this is what you need, right? When you add those all up, that's what you need to bring in revenue annually. And then obviously when you break it down from an annual revenue need, then that can help us make up what our pricing is ultimately going to be. And we'll get to how to do that in a little bit. But that, like I said, is just the baseline. So the 5th bonus component, so there's not a 6th bonus, it's just the 5th bonus component is the value gap. So this is where there's a differentiator between everyone just kind of charging their own baseline price, which can be different just based on like what you need as a salary versus someone else, what your business costs are versus someone else, and so on and so forth. But then we add in the value gap. And the value gap is how you get from a baseline price and you start to bring more value to your offering, which allows for the actual value of the offering to increase, therefore the price to increase. And these can be a lot of different things. Like when you consider what you could add as a value multiplier or value gap filler upper, this could be something like, okay, signing up and investing in a certification, which then brings value to your program. It could be creating a really unique budgeting system or any sort of calculator or resource that is super unique and valuable to your ideal clients, and that brings added value to your program. It could be that you have hired someone and they operate as maybe an additional resource for your clientele. And obviously you're making an investment in a new person. And so that adds value to your program because now not only do they have access to you, but they have access to this additional person. And therefore you're able to increase that value gap or fill up that value gap and then thus increase that price point. And it could be a series of a ton of other things. Lots of them can be considered investments that you make, financial investments that you make in your business, but they can also be simply years of experience. Maybe with every year that you run this business, you add like a 2% increase because that's so funny because I'm thinking, got to keep up with inflation, but inflation right now is a lot more than 2%, but adding, some sort of increase every year because just like out in the world of having a 9 to 5, people can get cost of living increases and kind of just like inflationary increases in their paycheck. You as a business owner also deserve to have at the very least a cost of living increase to yourself. So adding that level of experience and increasing your the price point based on your experience as a coach can also be a value gap filler. But like I said, there's tons of different ways that you can kind of think through this, and I provide some space for you to brainstorm that and just some additional ideas inside of the actual pricing formula program. But the value gap is the fifth component when it really comes to the actual variables or things that you need to do and follow the formula. So once you can sit down and identify what these totals are on, again, an annual basis, it makes actually pricing your program and your services so much more like data backed, right? Because now you have an idea of the actual costs that are going into your business and the actual, needs that you have that you need from your business, right? So we're able to bring that all together and then therefore get a price point from that. Now, how do we do that? Well, we take the pricing formula that I just introduced, which is based on the 4 baseline components of pricing. Remember, your salary, business costs, taxes, and profit. And when you add that all up, that gives you your business revenue needs or wants and desires. So usually it's a business revenue goal. And then we reverse engineer that goal to identify a price point that are based on the other 2 items that are included in the pricing pie. The second item in the pricing pie is your client capacity. And the third item in the pricing pie is the value stress test, which is also where the value gap component from earlier comes back into play. Okay, so we'll start with your business revenue needs or your business revenue goals, because that's ultimately what we get to once we add up those 4 baseline components of pricing, right? So revenue is ultimately the total of all the things that you sell based on the prices that you sell them at and, how much of that you sell, right? So if you offer just one service, which I always like to start out, especially with my clients, especially with new money coaches, is just pricing based on your total revenue needs or goals in your business, getting a price point based on all of that with one service. Like, how could we hit that revenue amount by just selling one thing? And we start there because then like anything else you sell is profit, which adds to the growth and impact of your business then. But it also simplifies this whole thing. So if you think about that, then your revenue, the revenue in your business, is made up of how many clients you have and the price that you're selling the services to your clients at. What's fabulous about this is that if you have a revenue goal or a revenue need in mind, then like I had said earlier, you can reverse engineer that revenue goal into a price point and reverse engineering that based on the next piece or component of the pricing pie, which is your client capacity. Now, identifying your client capacity can be interesting because if you don't have an idea of what a coaching package would look like for you right now, it gets a little bit tricky. And my advice, even to my clients when we're working together and they're just getting started and need to at least identify a starting price point, is really to, make your best guess. And then we can kind of tweak it from there. So when you're determining your client capacity, you need to have an idea of obviously the time that you have available. And if you're working on this business part-time and you have a 9 to 5 gig, then, it's taking that into consideration. If you're doing it full-time, it's also considering like how much time do you have available to offer to those coaching calls. So considering that, obviously, and then also considering the program that you are offering and specifically the logistics of your program. So when I say that, I mean, okay, what is the length of your program? And a program can really take up any length of time. It could be 1 month, 3 months, 8 months, or 12 months, and any number of months in between. So it's really determining that piece. And then also, how often are you communicating with your clients, specifically getting on calls, so that you can really identify your actual capacity for working with clients. Because obviously there's one side of working with clients, which is the face-to-face time. But then there's also the side of working with clients, which is kind of the back end, working on, maybe giving them feedback, looking over information, pulling data together, researching an answer, whatever that looks like. So it's considering both of those, which is why if you're doing this more full-time, I would consider, of the time that you do have available, what amount of time is going to be dedicated to those calls, so that at least we have a place to start in determining your client capacity. So obviously, once you know how long your program is and how often you're going to be speaking to clients within that program, you can kind of pair that with your actual week to week or month to month capacity for working with clients. So you can determine how many clients are you going to be working with at any given time. And then ultimately you want to determine how many clients, what's your capacity for clients in the given year. Because remember, we're working with annual numbers and then breaking it down accordingly. So coming up with client capacity can be a little bit of a mind boggle, because it takes thinking through all of this and some of the things you're guessing on, but it at least gets us to a starting point. Again, if you are confused or not quite following along with this, really you can try taking notes and getting as far as you can. But if you want something super easy and something you can download and follow, then I would definitely suggest heading to wanderwealthy.com/pricing and getting your hands on the pricing formula workbook and calculator, because it's going to do most of the heavy lifting for you. But the client capacity will help you determine, again, your annual clients that you can take on. And then you take that overall revenue need or goal and you simply divide it by the client capacity that you have for the year. And that will help you get to, again, a very baseline price point. And remember, we just got to those revenue needs / goals with the 4 baseline components of pricing: the salary, business costs, taxes, and profit. But we haven't considered the filling up the value gap, which leads us into the third component of the pricing pie. And it's the final component of the pricing pie. Now that we have our needs, we can divide it by our client capacity. Then we have to take it into the value stress test. So we have this baseline price point. Now we're going to take it into the value stress test, and we can either value it up or potentially stress it down a bit. And really what that's going to be determined by is, of course, taking your price point out into the market, and specifically your niche market, your ideal target clientele, and stress testing it, seeing where they're at, what their reactions are when it comes to seeing that sticker price. And sometimes it's valuable to kind of share the price point in different ways, thinking about it in terms of what it would cost them on a monthly basis or a weekly basis, because sometimes, especially when we're talking about money coaching and dealing with people who have a harder time wrapping their mind around the holistic picture of their finances, $1,000 or more, much more price point can feel really shocking. But when we break it down into a little bit more digestible chunks, sometimes it's still stress tests appropriately and the sticker shock isn't as high. So that's some suggestions that you could always use. This is something that we do inside of the Wealthy Coach Blueprint, which is my 12-week signature program where I work with my clients one-on-one to help them build a life-changing coaching program for their clients and learn how to market and sell it with ease. And we do this in our niching phase, where we really dig into the client and identifying who that person is and making sure it's a really good fit for the offering that we're providing. And one thing that we do is the pricing value stress test. Now, if the clientele, and if it makes sense, you can stress test a higher priced program, because maybe you want to fill up the value gap. Maybe you have that experience, or you have made the investments in your business. You have, something that is unique to your business and your clientele in terms of a resource or a tool that you are able to provide them. That certainly adds value and can bring your baseline price up a bit. And then you can stress test the filled up value gap of your price point. So this is a critical component, because obviously if no one in your market is going to buy something just because of the price, we need to find a good product market fit and identify what's going to work for them, or potentially find a new market to sell this great, valuable service and offering and program to. So that really helps a lot of my clients identify, where they want to fit into the market, what they want to offer, and what that is ultimately going to look like. So those are some of my kind of best kept secrets when it comes to pricing, and the things that we really look at when it comes to, making an offering that is a no-brainer from a financial investment standpoint, but also ultimately delivers on that value that we're promising. And we ensure that that's going to happen when, my clients work with me inside of the Wealthy Coach Blueprint. We have a very specific way of building programs to ensure the results for the clientele, and to ensure that those clients are delighted and feeling fully supported and really taking action to get the results that they need. If you're interested in joining us inside of the Wealthy Coach Blueprint, I'm offering it only one more time here in the year of 2022, and doors are closing very, very soon. So you can head to wanderwealthy.com/blueprint to check out more details and fill out an application. We can then take it from there, get on a call, have a chat in the DMs, however you prefer, and see if now is the time, at least in 2022, to make this happen and work together on your money coaching business wherever you're starting from. So wanderwealthy.com/blueprint. And of course, if you want to get your hands on the pricing formula, head to wanderwealthy.com/pricing. It is a no-brainer price point, I can assure you that. And you're going to get so much for what you pay for, because of the actual game-changing results of having a price that you feel confident and good about when it comes to getting out there and selling your services. So wanderwealthy.com/pricing for that. And that is a wrap on this episode. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. And until next time, I hope you wander wealthy.